The new equilibrium quantity is Q2, the new equilibrium price is P2, and now that's compared to the former equilibrium before the new technology was introduced, P1 and Q1. Okay, let's take an active learning example, and I want you to use the three-step method to analyze the effect, coming back to music downloads, the equilibrium quantity and quantity of the following events. Event A, a fall in the price of CDs, which you've already thought about, so you know what the effect of that is. Event B is sellers of music downloads negotiate a reduction in the royalties they have to pay. Right? And event C, both events A and B take place. So once again, visit with your neighbors, and then I'll ask for volunteers to explain what happens and why. Okay, we got it? I would suspect that diminishing returns are beginning to set in, which we'll talk about later. But nevertheless, let's start with A. So let's go through the three-step process, and let's begin with a new volunteer. We have some volunteers? If not, it's the easiest one of the three. Yes, go ahead. Yes. Yes. So that one's fairly straightforward, right? Okay, what about B? Yes. Right. So what happens to the new equal? And then, right. Okay, we got the first two, right? Now, what about C? What happens with regard to C? You got it? Say what? Well, B's gone at this point. Now take C. We've got the two elements, right? We know we've gotten the right answer with regard to A from, I'm sorry, who gave me the right answer? Yes, thank you. And the right answer with regard to B back here. And now C, all we have to do is combine those two answers, right? Wait a minute, you said demand was going up. What do you mean? Yeah, A. Is that what you said, the demand was shifting to the right? Is that what you said? She said the opposite. Am I to infer that you weren't paying attention when she was talking? Is that a fair inference or not? Okay, fine. That's a good explanation. I'm going to come back to you and make sure this is true going forward, but go ahead. Yes. No? You're talking about B now, right? Pardon? Yes, we're talking about C, but I thought you were going through each of the two to reflect on what happens in A. A, demand shifts to the left. In the case of B, supply shifts to the right. Right, Berkeley? Black Berkeley, right? We can't wait until we get the name tags and we get all squared away, and I'll be able to call you by your names rather than by what you're wearing. Okay, but anyway, we got those two right. Now what happens with regard to C? Are you going to stop thinking on me, or can I stick with you? Are you thinking, or are you nervous? What's going on here? Okay, but you do know the answer that in A, we got a shift in demand. It's a shift inward. In supply, we've got a shift outward, right? So will we get an unambiguous outcome as we did in A and B? We know exactly what's going to happen to price qualitatively and what's happened to quantity qualitative in both of those cases, right? Yes?
Wouldn't the price go down, but the quantity would be ambiguous depending on the size of the shift?
Exactly. Let's see why that's the case. Okay, the first example, I presume everybody thought this through and got it straight away. The demand curve shifts inward, and moreover, the price and quantity both fall. Okay, because there's no change, quite obviously, in the supply schedule given that event, right? But then when we turn to B, now the cost of goods sold falls. It makes producing more of the product at each and every price more profitable. Hence, the supply curve has to shift to the right. Okay? And sure enough, That's exactly what happens. It shifts to the right, and once again, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. We've got an unambiguous outcome. Not only does the quantity rise, but the equilibrium price falls. Right? Now, C, both happening together. Now it's a little more complicated. And Gray, can I call you? What's your first name? Cameron. Okay, Cameron got it right. All right. One of these variables is unambiguous. The other is ambiguous. Let's see why. Okay, both curves shift. The demand shifts to the left. Supply shifts to the right. Price unambiguously falls, which is exactly what Cameron said. But the effect on the quantity is ambiguous because the fall in demand reduces quantity, but the increase in supply increases quantity. And the question is, what's the net effect? When I'm doing this kind of analysis where I'm looking graphically without the actual equations and the quantification of both demand and supply, I don't know. But if I knew what the parameters were in the demand schedule and what they were in the supply schedule, and also the displacement with regard to the movement of each of those two curves, I could compute what the quantity is, right? Okay? All right, so now, in conclusion, what have we discovered today? Prices allocate resources. How do they go about doing that? One of the principles that we outlined in the first lecture, and comes from chapter 1 of your book, is that markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. And in market economies, or in markets for goods and services that are determined by supply and demand conditions and not by command, or not by a totalitarian regime setting those prices and quantities, equilibrium prices are the signals that guide economic decisions. And in guiding those economic decisions and providing incentives for changing those decisions, they, in turn, will allocate the scarce resources. Right? That's the core conclusion of our lecture today. And to summarize, a competitive market has many buyers and sellers, and the key point is how many. I don't care how many as long as they have no influence over price. As long as they take the price as given and can't manipulate it, that's sufficient. Economists use demand and supply models to analyze competitive markets. There are two laws that are critical. The law of demand, which states the quantity demand for a good depends negatively on the goods price. And there are various factors that drive the demand, and that depends on incomes, tastes, expectations, price of substitutes and complements, the number of buyers. And if one of those factors change, you've got to shift. Okay? You're not moving along the demand schedule. The upward sloping supply curve reflects the law of supply. And by the way, this is an advanced economics course. I would explain to you why the law of demand holds and the law of supply doesn't. But for the time being, assume it's true. All right?
Is law of supply more logistic?
Pardon?
Is it more logistic curve?
It could be, under certain circumstances, it could be negative as well. Let me just complete here. Just give me 1 second. Okay, the determinants on the supply side we reviewed. The intersection determines equilibrium prices. The natural influence is for shortages and surpluses to derive the movement toward equilibrium. That's the tendency of all competitive marketplaces. And we can use those to go through this 3-step process. Please revisit that 3-step process with respect to concrete examples, because we're going to see it again and again. All right, thank you.